Welcome. I've been getting a lot of requests from students and various people who are asking a question. They've just learned something, and why do I just forget it? Many students are asking, I've studied the subject matter, I've learned it, I've understood it, I know everything what's going on. I learned it so well, I've studied it, and the next day I don't know what's going on. By the weekend I've forgotten it, and then it's so frustrating because why is it that we keep forgetting? What is it? And many people make this effort. You're sitting with a tuition teacher, or you're sitting with a coach, you're sitting with your teacher, and they explain to you everything, and you say, yes, now I understand it. When you go on by the weekend, you think you know it. When the time comes for exam, you find, but I knew the work. What happened? And then you fail the exam. You say, but I knew everything. I knew the work. I knew the work. And then you feel so disappointed. You feel down. You feel depressed. You feel, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with my brain? What is going on? So please remember, you have a wonderful brain. You have a wonderful brain. We just need to remove the chain around our brain. Quick revision, two sides of the brain. This is your logical side. The logical side, this is your creative side. This is IQ, this is EQ. This is your ability for thinking, logical, the hard science, maths, science, accounting, engineering, all the hard subjects. Astronomy, be an astroscientist, become astrophotographer, all of this. Right side of the brain, ability to get along with people, to be in the hospitality industry, to be a medical doctor, you need both. You need to be intelligent and you need to be compassionate. So to be a doctor, you need IQ and EQ. So in some of those, you need to be a hairdresser, you need to be on this side here. To be a waiter or a waitress, to be a photographer, you need to be here. To be a good architect, you need very good right side of the brain, because you need visionary thinking. To be an architect, you need to draw something that no one has seen. You need to draw a house that no one has seen. So there you need right side of the brain. For an architect, you also need left side. You need to know how to do calculations and formulae. But for chemistry, if you be a scientist, excuse me, I'm suffering putting wind, excuse me. If you be a scientist, you need the left side of the brain, right? So now why do you forget? So please remember, there's two sides of the brain. These two sides communicate with each other. So you must change your learning methods. Some people, they just love to read books. They can study better by looking at the numbers, or looking at the figures. Other people, they like to look at pictures. So you must decide what is your type of brain. Are you the type of person that loves to look at pictures? Because some people can learn better by looking at pictures. Myself, I love pictures. I love writing. I can learn both ways. My brain, alhamdulillah, can work on both sides. And you must train your brain to use both sides of your brain. So you need to look at you read the words, then you take a pen and paper and you start drawing. You must try and understand it visually. But why do you forget? Okay, so let's try and figure out, why is it that, you studied something and your grandson is coming to you, you say, Papa, I've studied something, but I forgot. Or your child is coming to you, say, Ma, I studied, or Mommy, I've studied this, but why I can't? And now you as a parent or a grandparent, you think there's something wrong with your child. To say, all the other children, they're studying so well, they're getting top marks in school. Why is my child suffering? There's nothing wrong with your child. That's how the brain works. Remember, the brain does not want to remember everything. Let me give an example. Let us say someone gives you a telephone. Now, let's say you phone a company for a rep. You just want to find out, inquiring about a handbag, or you find out about perfume. And they say, phone this number 3449648. So you remember, 3449648, and then you dial that number. But you don't need that person's telephone. It's not an important number, right? Now, the brain doesn't like you to keep useless information. So what happens? The brain immediately deletes that information because it's not an important number. Okay, maybe you just phone in the post office, or you phone in just a bank, just some random number. But you can't keep all rubbish telephone numbers in your brain, otherwise you're occupying space. So the brain keeps on deleting, like the same way you clean out your computer, you clean out your history. The brain keeps on deleting the history to find out, okay, if you haven't used that number again, that means it's not important. The brain says, okay, that's not important, delete it. Delete it from your history in your brain. So the brain deletes it. But if it's a number that you use all the time, say your mother's number, your father's number, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, husband, wife, your children, using all the time, the brain says, okay, that's an important number. That one we don't delete it. That one we keep it. All right, so the brain now remembers, okay, that's an important number. So in the same way, when you're studying a work, you're studying a textbook, the brain doesn't know that is this an important thing that you are reading? Is this part of your career? Or is this just a magazine article you are reading at the doctor's surgery? The brain doesn't know the difference. So if you want to read something you have studied, let's say you're studying to become a doctor or an engineer or a scientist or an astronaut, and you study something, or you're studying history, and you're studying the Civil War, say in America, the North versus the South, the Union versus the Confederate Army. Now you know all the work. Next day comes by the weekend and you're starting to struggle. What's going on? And your parents are looking at you, or your grandparents, but he studied so hard. He was working so hard. He wasn't even watching TV. He knew the work. Why did he fail? We thought he'll come out first in class. What happened? This is the reason why it happens. Because the brain erases things all the time. How do you stop your brain from erasing it? Because the natural part of the brain, it's going to remove it. But you got to you got to train your brain, please, this information, don't remove it. How do you do that? So let's look at what is the secret? Why do I forget something? So what is the secret? Please explain this to your children. Please explain this to your grandchildren. If you're a teacher, please explain this to the school kids. And if you're whatever profession you're in, if you got a speech tomorrow, remember this. If you got a speech at the end of the week or the end of the month, and you got to give a speech to the board of directors, to the CEO of the company, or you're going for an interview and you got to talk very well, you're going to forget things. How do you make sure that you don't forget? I'm going to give you the secret formula for that. And there's two parts of the brain, what we discussed left and right. But now I'm going to talk about a very, very powerful secret, a very, very powerful formula. Listen carefully. My philosophy is to make it simple. So please don't worry. Please, I'm here for you. I'm going to make it simple. I struggle my whole life. I like to, if something is difficult, I make it simple. That's my job. I make things simple so that you can understand. What's the point making things complicated if no one understands it? What's the point? Okay, so I'm going to make it very simple. KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple and straight. Khalas, finish. Let's keep it simple and straight. B to B, back to basics. Why do I forget? And I'm going to tell you why. Let's look at the formula. Listen carefully. The next 2 minutes can change your life. The next 2 minutes can make sure that your child goes from 50% to 80%. Your child, from getting a D in school, your child will start getting an A in school. And your child, instead of just scraping through class, will come out at the top of the class. Listen to this formula. It's no magic, but it is a secret that many people won't tell you. But you need to understand. You need to understand the human brain. I've studied the human brain, so I'm telling you, I've got 4 degrees, and the way I got the degrees is by implementing this formula, by implementing the secret, and by understanding how the brain works, and I'm sharing it with you. Share it with everyone. Share it with your children. Share it with your grandchildren. Share it with whoever you care. Right, let's look at the secret. To understand that, let's understand the brain. There's 2 things called, one is called a short-term memory. Remember that word is called a STM. If you forget the long word, don't worry about it. Just remember short. Just remember the word short memory, and the other one is called a long-term memory. Simple. We understand that so far. Two types of memory. One is called a short-term memory. This one you're going to forget. Short-term memory. Other one is called a long-term memory. Long-term memory, this one you're not going to forget. So what is the formula? How do we go from short-term memory to long-term memory? This is how the brain works. As I explained before, if you're going to learn a random piece of information, the brain is going to delete it. It deletes the history all the time because it needs space. The brain needs space. So it's going to keep deleting your history. So the brain, I just want to get into a proper position because in winter, my spine, I'm not complaining, but my spine is in a hell of a pain at the moment. But I've got to share knowledge with you. I love this country. I love South Africa. I love the people. I can't just sit here and worrying about myself. There's other people who are struggling and suffering. I feel so sad for the Gen Z. There's so much social media influence for them. So I want to share knowledge to empower you as a human being. That's all I want to do. Okay, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about you. It's about you. You are an important human being. You are a valuable human being. And don't let anybody tell you, so what if you failed in your class? So what? So what? I mean, the school only tests you for, so what if you failed in maths or science? That doesn't mean you're a stupid human being. You could be having a heart of gold. But did any school give you an exam result to say, you know what, this guy got a heart of gold or this girl got a heart of gold? They don't measure that. So don't worry if you fail your exams. But yes, you must try your level best. But don't let it disappoint you. Don't think there's something wrong with you. I mean, many of the schools, they just will test you in English, Afrikaans, history, maths, science, physics. Finish. But what about the other subjects? Maybe you're a fantastic ballet dancer. Maybe you're a fantastic singer. Or maybe you're a top sports player. Maybe you know how to play rugby. Or you know how to play chess. Or you know how to do art or calligraphy. Or you know how to do tile work. Or you're a fabulous builder. Or a musician. Those things they don't teach you in school. They don't test you on that. So for example, you fail in maths. Now you think you're stupid. And the person who gets good in maths, oh, that person is so clever. But you are also clever. We are all clever in different ways. So never ever tell your child he is stupid. And teachers, please don't ever tell a pupil that they are stupid. Please, that girl, she is very intelligent. So don't tell her that she is stupid. She's a wonderful human being. She's a wonderful girl. So encourage them. So let me teach you now how to go from short-term memory, because your brain is going to erase it. Remember, your brain is got a data. It's a computer. So your brain is going to keep erasing it, because your brain needs space. You're going to fill up your brain, and brain is saying, I got too much information. So if it's short, if it's nonsense information, your brain is going to forget it. I mean, can you remember what news article you read in the newspaper last week, Monday? You can't remember. The brain doesn't care. If it's not headline news, the brain doesn't care. Okay, brain will say, remove it. We don't need this rubbish. Delete it. So the brain every day, when you are sleeping at night, the reason why you go into a deep sleep is because your brain is going through all the data. It's going to your history files in your brain, and it's deleting the information. It's removing it. It said, this is rubbish. You don't need it. Right? But if it's important, then your brain will keep it. How do you tell your brain what is important? Right? This is what happens. If you learn something today, if you learn anything today, today you're going to remember everything 100%. If you learn something, you open a textbook, I test you on that, you're going to remember everything. You'll get 100%, you'll get 90%. You'll say, okay, so if you learn something today, you're going to get 100%. But within 24 hours, within 24 to 48 hours, if I'm going to test you again, you're only going to remember half the work. You're only going to get 50%. But within 72 hours, you're only going to get 20%. You're going to fail. In 3 days, you're going to fail. This is guaranteed. That's how the brain works. There's very few individuals who got a photographic memory. 5% of the people in the world excuse me, have got a photographic memory. That means they read something once, they will remember it forever. But there's very few people. Those are rare geniuses. The rest of us are ordinary human beings. We are not Superman and Supergirl. Yes, we like to pretend we are Supergirl. We look beautiful, we look smart, we're a Supergirl. Yes, no harm. You must have a positive mindset. But in the majority of people, in 90% of the people, if you learn something today, you'll get 100%. Within 24 hours, you'll get 50%. And within 72 hours, you'll fail. That's how the brain works. Today, you'll know everything. This is a timeline. This is how much you know. This is 100% you know. Within 24 to 48 hours, you'll only know half of it. And here's the time. By the weekend, you will have forgotten. If you learn something on Monday, by the weekend, you'll know nothing. To solve this problem, you need to move the information from short-term memory into long-term memory. And the way to do that is that you see here when the graph is dropping here, just at this point, within 24 hours, you got to revise your work at this point in time. You got to revise it there, and then you got to revise it there, you got to revise it. That means within 24 hours, you revise the work. You tell so your brain will say, oh, this person is revising again. That means maybe it's important. And your brain is saying, okay, let's just see if it's really important. Then when you revise it again on day 3, then the brain will say, okay, now it's important. Guys, and the brain tells the manager here, guys, this is the important thing because the person is revising it 24 hours, then in 3 days, and he's revising it at the weekend. And once a month, every month, you must revise it again. So you revise your work within 24 hours. Within 1 day, you must revise it. Then within 3 days, you must revise it. Then by the weekend, you must revise it. Then end of every month, if you got 12 months by the end of the final exam, end of January, you revise it. End of February, end of March, end of April. You keep on revising. So your brain will then say, okay, guys, this is important. But how do you do it? Because the books are so thick. How are you going to do all of that work? One is by hard work. You got to sacrifice. You got to choose. Are you going to watch TV? Are you going to watch Netflix all the day? Are you going to go to parties? Even if you want a party life, then you're not serious about studying. Since studying, you must sacrifice. And secondly, we don't all have the luxury of time. You must reduce a thick book. If you got a thick textbook, I don't have a book here. If you have a thick textbook, you can't revise the whole textbook again the next day and every weekend again. No, you can't do it. Here's a thick textbook. This is 1,000 pages. This book is 1,000 pages. So how are you going to read this whole 1,000 pages every weekend? You can't do that. So what you do is the minute you start on that first day, on day number 1 when everything is there, you take a pen. You take a paper, take pen and paper, and you take what is called index cards. If you don't have an index card, you have a little notebook. In that notebook, you make notes, important keywords, or a formula, geometry formula, algebra formula. If you're studying chemistry, you write down the formulas. H2O, it means 2 molecules of water, 1 molecule of 2 atoms of water, 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 atom of oxygen, and that gives us a molecule of H2O. If you're studying engineering, you write down the formulas. You're studying architecture, you write down the formulas. If you're a medical doctor, you write down what are the formulas, the prescription for a person who's got diarrhea, or a prescription for a person who's got diabetes. You write down the exact prescription. What are the medications you're going to give? Okay, for this patient, I need to give 3 medications. You remember it. You write down the medications. Then you've got so 1,000 pages, you must make it into 50 pages or maximum 100 pages. That book must reduce it to 10%. 10% or 5% of that book. Only the main things. That's how your brain is remembers. So then on day number 2, you don't open your textbook again. Then you only look at your summary notes. So then you look at summary notes on day number 1. Then on day number 3, again the summary notes. By the weekend, you only look at your summary notes. Then once a month, when you're going through your summary notes again, then you open this thick textbook again. And then you say, oh, okay, I forgot that part, I forgot that part, I forgot that part. And that's how you move the information from short-term memory, you move it to long-term memory by revising it all the time to inform your brain. So your brain will say, oh, okay. The brain will tell the manager, there's a manager in the brain, there's a supervisor. The supervisor will say, guys, this is important information because this girl is studying it she's revising it all the time. So the brain will say, okay, guys, put a red stick on it. Do not delete this. So the brain doesn't delete it. And even sometimes if you forget, it's here, it remains here in the subconscious part of your brain. So the main thing now, once it's in your brain and you've revised it, the main thing is don't panic. When you go to the exam room, don't panic. So the way to overcome your stress is to breathe deeply. Your brain needs 3 things. It needs water, because your brain is made of 85% water. Your brain needs water, your brain needs sugar, and your brain needs oxygen. You take deep breaths, take some water, take something sweet, write your exam, be positive, and you'll get your A for exam. Stay well, look after yourself. Studying is fun. I love to study and I love to share knowledge. Share knowledge, share with your children, share with your grandchildren. Stay well. Alhamdulillah.